findings, and I think personal wisdom. It's really exciting to have you here. And I mean, it's fantastic that technology makes it possible for people to actually speak to each other who are sitting in different countries. So without wasting any further time, I want to give the word to Filip, and who will be speaking to us about cultural sensitivity. And I think we are finding that our world is becoming more multicultural, you know, as migration happens on a larger scale, but also in general that people choose to go and live in other countries. And I think the term cultural sensitivity is very interesting. And Filip, I look forward to hearing what you have to say about it. The next 20 minutes are yours. We can't hear you yet, Filip, sorry.
I tried to share my screen, but I get an error mail. You have to open this. You have to enable me to use my screen.
You're now able to share your screen.
No.
Oh, Sim, thank you. You're the tech expert. Wonderful.
Okay, there we are. And
we can see your screen, Filip. Thank you.
Yeah, things are reacting very slowly. Thank you so much for inviting me and being your guest. Actually, initially I was invited to bring a workshop. That means that I should make you think as well about cultural sensitivity, and that's what I will do. I will introduce some ideas, and then we go together to create some ideas and to have a dialogue at the end on how to do it. But I would like to have it from student perspective. Before I start, I would like to tune our ideas about culture, and very quickly I will project some pictures, and I would like you to use your chat box and to post any idea you have during watching the pictures. So my question is, what comes in your mind if you see? Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry. I first introduced myself, sorry. I see a white screen at the moment. A few words about myself, and then I go back to my question about culture. So I'm Filip Dejonckheere. I'm from Ghent, Artevelde University College. And as I'm working for OT, I think occupations are important, family, and I live in a green environment, which is very important. My fascination is culture. That's why I'm invited here. I work in Ghent, and I travel most of the time with my camera, and often from an occupational-based perspective, taking photos. I work for Erasmus students. That's my job. And I work also for a European network, which is promoting more exchange of students, staff, and knowledge. My main course is a course on creativity. That's a course every year in Belgium. Unfortunately, at this moment, it's on hold due to COVID. And it's a course which is focusing on how to use creativity and all media in creativity in the use of clients. And we work very much from an occupational-based perspective. At this moment, I'm working on a new project. It's creating social entrepreneurship. It's an online course, which is worldwide, and it's a 10-week course with people from everywhere. So I take my start back. I make some questions first, and my question to you is now, what comes in your mind when you see this? You can post it in the chat, or you can tell me later on. Okay. So what comes in your mind when you see this? We talk about cultures. Okay, can you unmute and say a few keywords? You have
Yes,
your micro, so can you give me a few ideas?
what I see is different
Different?
persons.
Okay.
Difference.
Okay, difference. Another keyword?
Traditions,
Okay.
traditions, emotions,
Okay, emotions, traditions. Okay.
beauty, beautiful,
Beautiful. Okay.
culture, holidays, joy,
Okay, joy, holiday. Okay.
fun, happiness,
Okay.
color.
Beautiful.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Well, when we think about a shared definition on culture, then I think we end up with indeed very joyful ideas. Well, I was reading about culture, and one of the most important researchers on culture is Hofstede. He's from the Netherlands, by the way. And this is what I read when I go into his books about working with cultures. And he's writing, culture is more often a source of conflict than of synergy, which is very much in contrast with our first ideas, that culture is very much joyful, it's holiday, it's colorful, it's diverse, but then working with cultures often creates a lot of conflicts. And actually, that's his statement, but that's also the statement of today. If this is so, how can we be prepared for that? What can we do about it? And your participants, your students, what is your perspective on that? What can we do to be prepared to this disharmony, let's so to say? I will go through 4 different chapters very shortly, and every chapter has a question for you, and at the end we might discuss it. First of all, I would like to have a shared definition, and you gave already a few ideas. When I wrote my own definition, then it has to do with values, norms, things we share in the community. But for me, very important is that actually the key element in culture, it is a way of a common understanding. It's a system of meaning giving, things that happen to understand from each other what it means. Very much from an OT point of view, it is about an understanding of the meaning of activities, of things that happens, of actions or situations or emotions. And of course, that includes language, habits, practice, rituals, procedures, opinions, and so on. That means we might think about cultures in a really strict sense, that groups of people who have a common understanding. Well, it can be a society, but it can be a very small subculture as well. I mean, a common understanding, creating common things together. I will go to 3 chapters I mentioned. The first one is culture sensitivity. And to do so, I would like to go back to what are really the cultural competences that we are aiming on in education. There are quite many. And for this presentation, I will focus, I make a selection what is really important when we talk about cultural sensitivity. So I come there to the cultural competences. And the most important one, if you see, there's a long list, but the most important one is cultural awareness. Cultural awareness, if I translate again in my own words, means that you are aware of what is happening, that you understand what is happening, that you give it a meaning, a common meaning. Questions, of course, how can we do that? When you look into literature, we see that cultural awareness has different meanings, and it has also different levels. So on this slide, you can see that from top to down, you have different levels from a starter, a beginner, to an expert. And it means that every step includes more awareness, more understanding, more application, integration of the different competences. I took different research and different evaluation of programs of students, And I found two, which was for me very remarkable. They give a definition on how they understand cultural awareness or cultural sensitivity. If I look to the first one, then you can see to get to know other cultures is a core element, knowledge. If I look to the second one, people are different. And what is important, that we get more comprehensive, more understanding of each other. Well, my first question to you, I would like to discuss later on, how to become more cultural aware. If this is so important, if this is what we have to do to tackle the question that working with cultures is not so easy, then I think the first one is to be more culture aware, how to do so. I leave the question open, we come back on that, because that's the way we agreed. First my presentation and we come back on questions. The second chapter on the competences is cultural understanding, which means that in the list of competences, to get knowledge about cultures is very important. Well, actually, it's quite mission impossible. I work in Ghent, in Belgium, and the district, the place where we work, there's a community center, there's a health community center, and they have at this moment 110 different nationalities who are registered there. So our students who go there, they never can be prepared to know about all these cultures, about all these rituals. So what to do so? Once again, what kind of tools do we have to tackle this? And then I go back to some frameworks and I give two examples. There's no real time to explain them, but I use them as an example that a cultural understanding should not be knowledge about all cultures, but should be an overview, an image that helps you to understand things that happens. This one is the easy one, the iceberg metaphor. You have also the onion metaphor, they're different. But for instance, to give an example, this states that when you work with cultures, actually only see the top of the iceberg. And most of what happens in cultures, it is hardly to understand. You should have really an insight. So like habits, customs, and things, rituals that are happening, we easily can understand, or at least we can observe them, we can witness them. But when you really want to have an insight in culture, then you have to be aware that whatever happens, it has an underpinning meaning. There's something that happens because. And why is this because? There's a different way of reasoning, a different understanding, a different value. And this is hard to understand. So when you work with cultures to judge only on what you see, that's not a cultural understanding. At least cultural awareness means that you are open to see, to understand that there's a meaning behind. And that's the iceberg. So I give you a few examples. What you see is hospitality. What you see are rituals. But actually the question is, what's behind this? I use another metaphor or another theory just to explain that the cultural framework is needed to have an understanding. This is Hofstede, which is still located in the Netherlands. And based on that, there's quite a lot of research done. And he's describing initially five, but now 6 dimensions. And this helps you to understand what is happening. I give only one as an example, power distance, which means that in situations, you try to understand that from different cultures, people have a different understanding of power. And for some, it's important to take a distance. For some, it's important to be equal. So again, a cultural framework is a way to get an understanding. We never get really knowledge about all the rituals, but we should have a model that helps us to do so. If you are interested in this one, you find a lot on the internet, but I think this website might be very interesting to look on your own country, how this is defined. So understanding, it's about trying to find what's behind it. The third chapter, if you want to understand culture, if you want to be more sensitive on what's happening in society, it's a global orientation. Again, if you look in the competences, it's one of the 5 basic competences, which means that we have a more global perspective on things that are happening. We discuss within the curriculum with students and so on. We discuss topics related to society. We look to values in society. We discuss them. Global engagement means also that you are sensitive to what is happening in society and that you take part in that. Again, the question, if we want to be more culture sensitive, how can we then be more global oriented? I go back. I made you 3 questions. And the first question was about cultural awareness. How should we do that? And maybe one of the tools might be to be more exposed, to meet more the situations. I made you a second question, cultural understanding. And maybe if we have it much more explicit in curriculum, it would help us. And then we are not talking about real knowledge as such to classify every culture, but to have a framework. I made you a third question, global orientation. And I think it's really important. And my statement is we should really, from an educational point of view, to appreciate more, to give it more space, to find ways to create, I wouldn't say incentives, but at least to show appreciation. This is part of what we should do in education. So after my presentation, you still can have a question for clarification. Then we listen to other presentations and we come back on these 3 questions.
Thank you very much.
Somebody has a question for clarification? Or
Any of the participants?
my mouse is not so following my thoughts here. Okay.
That's okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much. That was really, really lovely because it offers also some practical guidelines for what could be done in education, for example, the global perspective taking. And I do have a question. I note that you don't mention the concept of cultural humility. So there are some publishers in the health professions, health professions, academic health professions, who basically take the stance that it is impossible to ever become culturally competent or entirely sensitive. And they propose this concept of cultural humility, whereby the idea is that you will never be culturally competent. So you always need to take the stance that, okay, I will never understand somebody else's culture. I need to stay questioning them about it. What do you think about that concept and how does it fit into your thoughts?
Yeah, I think for myself, cultural awareness is very open. It's very close to cultural openness.
Okay.
And I think, of course, we are always limited from a perspective. I think the basic attitude to be open, this is really what we have to create. But openness has to do with be able to leave your own perspective, to take perspectives of other people, means that you have an attitude of tolerance to other ideas, to other ways of acting, and so on. Yeah, I would say for me the keyword is openness.
Okay, I like that. Yeah, lovely. I did a research study on sort of 21st century skills and as they are taught in the Dutch education system, and they are all taught to an average level except one of them, and that's global perspective taking. And that really, really triggered me, and listening to you now, I thought, yeah, that's such a nice concrete way of introducing conversation and potentially openness about other cultures. Yeah. Are there, yeah. Maria, you have a question, please. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Filip. It was a wonderful talk, and I was thinking about waiting with this until after, but I need to ask now. So sometimes in discussions when we talk about different cultures and cultural sensitivity, we end up saying we and them, me, and we divide into groups when you think of my culture and your culture. Do you have any solution for how to get away from this? How to speak in a way that we feel that it's not us and them, it's us, a big us.
Mhm. I go back to my definition, like the definition of culture I used here. It's about a common understanding, a common meaning. So the way people do in other culture or other contexts might be completely different, but I think the key is to try to understand why are they doing this and what do we have in common. It's not so much about differences, but it's about looking to the understanding of the meaning, and that might be the match. We might do things in a very extremely different way, but the meaning might be the same. Well, not the intentions.
Yeah.
Then we are in psychology, but I mean the meaning, the global value you give to things, actions, situations, conflicts, for instance.
Stefan.
Esra, you have a question.
Yes, thank you very much, dear Filip, for your presentation. I would like to ask you one thing. When we talk about cultural awareness, so what shall we expect from this person when we say that he or she is culturally like have awareness? For example, is it like to act like the person in front of us from different culture, or it is just to accept them and to have this tolerance as you mentioned before?
I come back to the last word, to tolerance and openness. I think it's indeed a very good question to ask. How can you see that somebody is on the level of this awareness? And it's hard to say so, because it's an attitude. It has to do with emotions. It has to do with insights. Now, I go back to the keyword tolerance, to show tolerance and at least openness, acceptance to what is happening, to situations that are happening. Yeah, is it what you expect?
Yes, I think like.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think when we look to understanding, you have more concrete material. You can really go back to frameworks and to use of frameworks and applications and to transfer situations into the theory. But when it goes to awareness, it's really hard to measure, and it's hard to see when is a person aware.
And I wonder sometimes whether a person isn't aware themselves of their own assumptions and attitudes. And I wonder, that is sometimes one of the biggest challenges, that which is inside of you that you're not aware of, that prevents you from being open, and that maybe leads you to make judgments and assumptions about the other, if I could say it like that. Yeah. Janneke, your hand is up. You have a question as well. Your microphone, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Thank you, Filip, for your very inspirational presentation. I was wondering, you were saying that we should put cultural awareness more explicit in the curriculum. And as an OT teacher, and you're working in Ghent, I'm wondering, what are good practices that you use in Ghent or that you see in Belgium or maybe around the world, how we can also do it in Nijmegen?
Now, I would cut your question in two parts. What are good practices? And then the second part, what do we do in Ghent? I don't think we have good practice, to be honest. I personally believe that to have an understanding, it's only possible when you really are confronted often with so diverse situations. So you cannot teach this, in my belief, you cannot teach this from the campus. And you have to go to real practice.
Yeah.
And to give one example of good practice, it's a project our students, our international students, are making in the community, where they go 3-4 days inside one region, one district, to interview people, to observe people, to question people about occupations, what they are doing, what is meaningful activity in this region. And this is really an eye-opener for them about what is real life and what is real diversity and what is real understanding of how people live together in a community.
Okay.
I don't know if it's a good answer, but at least my answer is this is something you have to go in real life to expose students to what is really happening in society.
Yeah.
Clinical practice is not enough. You really have to go in society, community.
And then you mean abroad or in Belgium in different regions?
I'm pretty sure we have a project where we have students in 4 districts of Ghent. I think the culture shock is really big because they live in a student district and then suddenly they are in the area where mainly Roma gypsies are living, which is 500 meters further on than where they usually go. I mean, it has nothing to do with being abroad. It has to do with exposure to diversity and to be open to see that, to observe that.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. And we've gone 3 minutes over the allocated 20 minutes, which is not a problem. So I would like to introduce Maria Kapanadze and Esra Alagöz to you, but I need to leave the screen for a minute. And Maria, if you have a presentation to share, maybe this is the time to upload your presentation, etc. And I will be back in a minute.
Perfect.
Just to make sure, dear Maria Kapanadze, I think I will be working with the Maria Nordheim. Maybe Margot was a bit confused, just to clarify.
Can you see the presentation?
Yes, very good.
Yes, it's okay. So perfect. What was the question?
Margot needed to go to check on her children.
Yeah.
So I think you can start your presentation and she will join. Oh, she's already there. Margot, we can't hear you.
Okay, so I start. I think that I will move from after the Filip's presentation. It's my presentation will be about what happens when we don't have a cultural awareness. So I was thinking to prepare some kind of pitches about like statements about what we know about migrations, right to work, and ethical occupations. First of all, for me, it's also important to say I'm a research professor from University School of Nursing of Occupational and Occupational Therapy of University Autonomous of Barcelona. But right now I would like to present you a part of one of the researches that I was doing, and also starting from the narrative about myself, because I have experienced these migration processes because I'm originally Georgian and right now I live in Spain. And for me, the first touch with the migrations, I think, have started when I was working in Georgia with internally displaced population, and also with kids who were suffering some kind of war experiences. And in Spain, I have continued to work on the immigration issues in some associations. My route, it was never like linear. And right now I also teach, I'm doing research, and always it's about the challenging the context. We have moved now from the one workshop, it was about the narratives, and I strongly believe about how we are creating our narratives, and this narrative self or historic self, it's very important, that creates our comprehension, and not only of the word of ourselves, and also a specific like construction of who we are. But now I'm not using the word of construction, I'm saying composition, because we need to look into into the quality of this construction, like a just composition. Do you know what we are creating with our lives? Why we choose phenomenology when we are observing a different, when we are trying to understand different phenomena. And it's when we are talking about the immigration, it's very important to listen and give voices to protagonists. And when you're applying phenomenology as a research perspective, it gives you the opportunity to really to focus on the phenomena, to understand this reality, because as Filip was saying, yes, how we can follow this cultural awareness and understand the other. We can really hear what others are saying about own life roots and listening to the life stories. This research was based on the what was based in different life stories, and I will not go into the peculiarities of the research because it will be too long, but I will just stress some important moments. We was collaborating with one of the associations that was providing a space more than for 18 immigrant associations in Spain. And also they were working with the women, supporting self-employment too. And we used the triangulation of the voices of this association with the narratives to compare what they feel and think, and what is about the reality of people and work. I would stress the necessity of ethical occupations. Here we are understanding that the work should not only have the meaning, but also should be healthy, should be dignified. Many people are thinking that it's important that our working experiences are contributing to the others, family, society, and really enhancing health and well-being and giving an experience, being a part of the society. And if you refer to the occupation person's definition, you can also see this part of being very sensitive to the sustainability and ecological right issues of the occupations. We were in this research, we were observing different indicators, the experiences of the precarious work, the types of the work, the job tasks and conditions that were realizing people, subjective meaning of work for them, what they understand about the active citizenship, collective and individual identity, personal factors as motivation, system of values and capacities, cultural factors, gender models also related to this work, and right to education and permanent education. What we saw that we are saying that this institutional this social context and institutional context are creating a huge precarity artificially, and our practices not only should be connected with the understanding the cultural elements, but how we facilitate a real participation of people who are deciding to change the country, right? Actually, if we will see actual situations, the crisis, neoliberal economy, we can observe, for example, here in Big, in Spain, there is a high masculinization of the unemployment and feminization of immigration in general, and the reasons for immigration are very different, and mainly these are for the economic reasons. When we are talking about the very vulnerable populations, we're talking about really migration related to economic reasons too. So we have too many legal restrictions. We have a context when people are living under the disadvantage approaches always, for example, for presenting on the vacancies. If you have no papers, so you have no right to do anything. So you always be in this disadvantage because of the different in comparison to the local people, right? There is a law that you can abandon your country freely, but you cannot enter freely the country and having the rights to breathe and to be. And you can also see and observe the systemic racism at different levels and social exclusion of other. If you're interested, really, you can appeal to the philosophy like Arendt, Cortina. You can consider some occupational, also science authors like Gallego, and philosophy, again, Green, Levinas, or Walzer. And we know that the social inclusion needs positive action, equality of opportunities, diversity, and interculturality, and social determinants of health. And for sure, these social inclusion processes are not only connected with the deconstruction of this social exclusion. So these are different processes, and we need to put attention to those. You can imagine also in the time of the COVID situation, it will be a really, you can observe that the level of the unemployment is very high now, and the most vulnerable people who have no right for employment, for sure, they are out of job market and out from possibility of develop a meaningful life projects. If we will appeal to the immigration issues, you can see that from the frames of development ethics, we can understand that it's not about a country, it's about interrelationships at the multinational level. For example, how we are using our power as different countries when we are creating inequalities, right? And this multinational level. For example, the Western countries are used to use Africa as a big garbage for the computers. And so, and then we are saying that we cannot afford to give a future or work to the people who are migrating from Africa. So, and also we were saying about the other, the meaningful other, and here you can consider Levinas or Charles Taylor also. When we talk about these inclusive relationships, and inclusive relationships mean how this predisposition to think about our common well-being and being together, right? We know also that there are so many discourses about which are the rights and responsibilities of the immigrants. It's not only about the rights, but also the responsibilities. And many times we are facing in the countries the politics which are organized over the immigration issues are very paternalistic. So they are not stimulating this really exercise of the responsibilities. And then later on, artificially, people are getting out this conception about that I should be responsible goes. It's not everyday thoughts. So you make people dependent on the services. And we need to rethink the precarity. It's a crisis, like a crisis of care. In case of the women, we can say that many activities and work activities which are realized by women are caring some caring in the sphere of the caring, and you can imagine if people is caring all the time and perpetuating in the role of the carrier in the work and also in the family if she has dependent family members, and there is a lack of opportunities. And you can see all these different challenges, and I would like to make this emphasis on migratory pain and also traumas related to those, that it's very important to stress also during the work. And what we saw when we were thinking about the way occupations can be ethical, we have observed from the narratives that of people that there is unemployment, temporal work, irregular work, work precarity. Usually immigration is connected to the changes in occupational status. It's not the same when some people are exercising their job or their profession in the one country and they're moving and they have no right to exercise the same. And low self-esteem related to capacities due to language limitation, loss of qualifications, and need to update knowledge. Many times this chronic unemployment leads to this lack of the competences. Unemployment is a risk factor for physical and mental illness and morality. And for sure, in the terms of technology, we should rethink which is the role in this fourth industrial revolution. First industrial revolution demands the different capacities, different preparations, and the vulnerable people will be shifted off. So we need to use the progress to think how we will include those people and how we can stimulate opening the new jobs for the most vulnerable. So we have a precarity and in opportunities, for example, difficulties when you are having no paper to combat family life with the work inequalities due to pregnancy, because there is one of the narratives is saying that one woman was fired off because of her because the enterprise knew that she was pregnant. So and this is the contracts are usually super temporal for 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and when people have less competences, then the most exploitation occurs. So they have reduced right to work, scarce opportunities, legal restrictions, and lack of the possibility to be enrolled in the employment. And here we need to ask, the immigration many times is related to the when people are changing the different circumstances, because living in own countries is really threatful. So what we do we think about this social transformation and occupational justice from this point of view, when we used to have many stigmas about the immigrant, about their low qualifications, about their inability. But if you will compare really the level that many of them are artificially restricted for to execute meaningful work. And many economical studies, for example, if you will look to the economical studies, say that, for example, immigration is always connected with revitalization of the some marginalized spaces of the cities. So sometimes it's also oriented, it is connected with economic growth of the country. All these transitions through the countries are guaranteeing the capacity building of knowledge from one side, and from another side, each person is a human resource. And therefore it can be it also presents the economical value for the country. So we're seeing we observed different narratives about citizenship, adaptation to local culture, experiencing ethical, and we did use that experiencing ethical occupation contributes to collective identity and active citizenship, because many of them have expressed that they feel when they work they can contribute, and they want to contribute to the country by working. And here you see some different references to the occupational science perspective about the participatory citizenship. And this, I think that we should be very when we do develop the different kind of the interventions and the projects, we need to have these elements really presented. Do we work with the experience of belonging, doing of everyday occupation, sharing of activities, or contributions to the collective well-being and welfare of society? This participatory citizenship is also, and this engagement, we should analyze from the point of view of the quality of engagement, but not only from just engagement. And this is really important. Therefore, we are saying about the ethical occupations, right? So the participation in social activities, voting, neighborhoods was one of the things that were underlined. And you see that from the narrative, it's still the social exclusion is very, very strong. A basic need of shelter is not covered. People have reduced network and family reintegration challenges, and also experiencing a need in self-actualization, individual and collective identity. If you will go here, for example, to the one of the narratives of
sorry to butt in. We're at the 20 minutes. Would you be able to round up?
It's the last slide.
Oh, super. Okay, take it. Lovely. Thank you.
Sorry, I wanted to say that there is one narrative of the person that there are the gender roles are really important, because if you take a people who moved from Senegal, for example, for men to return to his own country without any money is a biggest problem, and the man who is responsible for the economic sustainability also of the whole family cannot see his boy for many years just because he is outside and needs to earn the money and send it to the family, and he cannot. You can imagine what is the experiencing of these people. And here I just summing up, just to say, invite you to think what you think about the engagement with those ethical occupation, that if we have a meaningful work and dignified work, we can contribute to the others. And but we need to have desirable social determinants for doing so, and also this engagement will also support positive changes in the person. And this is all. I just wanted to make you to think about all this right to for the having the dignified work, and also what we are creating as a societies with our structures, the structural racism and so on, artificially. So this is an invitation to think about.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for this theoretically rich presentation. Were the quotes you provided from research that you have done?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. We have one more presentation, and whilst you are uploading your PowerPoint presentation to the screen, do we have any questions for Maria? A quick question before we move on to the third presentation. Yes, Kalain and Daphne.
Oh, someone.
No, that's not you. That's okay. That's Will. Do go ahead with your question.
In your presentation, you stated a lot of problems with women who can't get to work and other things. Do you have an idea how we can cope with all those problems?
There are many issues. It's about enhancing the opportunities to work. It has to do with the legal questions and the laws. It also has to do in studying the different possibilities for the entrepreneurship, for example, in different models in which if you are in the crisis as a country and you don't have available the different, it's a crisis in general. For example, with the COVID, you can see that many bars are closed, many people have lost the job. In these types of the crisis, you should look for the alternatives of the job market, and the knowledge about the job market is really important. And then to know the skills, how you can support a lifelong education of those people, how you can promote adaptation, how you can promote the linguistic, taking out the linguistic barrier. It depends on which stage the person is, and so on and so on. So this is a super complex and it needs really multiple interventions from the multidisciplinary team too, to have those. And also attention to the health issues. I have not explained about the very dangerous, precarious work, like when you have no protective equipment sufficient, for example, and so on and so on. So this is.
Thanks. Yeah, indeed a complex issue. And thanks for the question, Kalain. I would love to continue the conversation, but we have one more presentation. So let's hear that and then have a conversation thereafter. Welcome, Will, Hale, and Maria Nordheim, Alme. I would like to hear what you have to tell us about the Physiotherapy and Refugee Education Program, the PrEP. The next 20 minutes are yours. Welcome.
We can maybe start. Thank you. Thank you for having us here, and thank you for great talks. I want to add that Esra is also on our team, and Francesca, who's also in the meeting, is also with us. So
super. Thanks. I'm apologizing right now to Esra because I placed you with the wrong Maria. I'm sorry.
But she's so good. She can be with any.
Super. Over to you.
So
everyone see the screen?
Yes.
Yes, we can see the screen.
Brilliant. Margot, thank you for chairing the this section of the Han International Week. I'll start off with the introduction and then pass over to Maria and Esra as we go on. So thank you. This is about PrEP, which is the Physiotherapy and Refugee Education Project. And we have Associate Professor Marie Nordheim Alme, who is the project lead with us today. We also have Esra Alagöz, who is the physiotherapy clinical lead at the Independent Doctors Association from Turkey. And myself, Will Hale, I'm NHS physio and recently finished my master's at the University of Birmingham, and I help with the network aspect for PrEP. So I will ask Maria to do a little bit more of an in-depth introduction to the PrEP.
Yes, thank you so much, Will. So the Physiotherapy and Refugees Education Project is an Erasmus Plus project that we started in 2018, and it's soon finished. It will be done in August 2021. But as Will just now mentioned, the PrEP network, the project will continue living via this network. So the background of this project was that the physiotherapy educations at different universities in Europe got feedback from physiotherapists working in the field or in clinic that they had too little competence working with refugees. And this has been an issue for a long time, but in 2015, 2016, this question came up even stronger. And we were discussing this, and we decided to try to do something about it and try to make a course to try to build competence in this. And after listening to both Filip and Maria, we can also agree that to learn all this is not done by one course or done in campus or anything, but we hope it could be one step at least. At least we maybe can build some awareness about giving physiotherapists the capabilities of working with refugees. And we'll also come back to this, but I just also want to point out that in the beginning, we also wanted to have this as a more interprofessional project. We ended up deciding to mainly focus on physiotherapists. We are now just starting the process of developing this course into a course also for occupational therapists. So this is an open invitation for everyone who wants to join in that. So yes, perfect. So now in January, we start the course, and the course is built up. First, we're looking into literature, what is there, what is the knowledge in the field. And then we had some discussions with the experts in the field, and there are plenty more experts. So we talked to a few of them, and we also interviewed physiotherapists, refugees, decision makers in Norway and Sweden and Netherlands. And based on all that, we started making a course. And we very quickly saw that we need more help. So we had an open invitation out in the physiotherapy field if anyone wants to contribute, and very many did. And we got into contact with many organizations, humanitarian organizations. Esra is one of those taking contact, and Will took contact, Francesca took contact, and many more. And this ended up then with a course and with many good discussions. And when the course started now in January, you can see on the map that we have participants from quite big parts of the world. We were happy for that. And the plan is to, now when this course is ready or done in March, we will evaluate and revise it and make it open available, both as a course and also as a collection of material. Yeah, you can take the next. So this is just the front page of the course. It consists of 9 modules. And culture diversity is a big topic, culture sensitivity, communication, creating therapeutic space. It's a lot about understanding, and it's a lot about we try to give people an experience of different people, different cultures, different experiences, different challenges. So let's see when we now can talk more and more to the participants if we have managed or not to do so. Yeah, you can jump to the next. So the main group was on these 6 partners. In Bergen, here in Norway, we have the Center for Migration Health, and then Han University and Trinity College Dublin, Karolinska in Sweden, Physiopedia, and AGL are here in Norway. And here, Physiopedia is, I don't know if you know them, but they're the Wikipedia of physiotherapists. They have a lot of courses and discuss many topics. And they have, of course, also been great in this. So, and I think if we jump to the next slide, we can see all the extra collaborators that have been invaluable for this work, and also will be very, and if the project now is soon done, it's this huge collaboration of organizations and institutions and also private persons that will make this network continue. Yeah, I think you can jump to the next. So then I can give the word to Esra.
Thank you very much, Maria and Will, for this presentation. So as Maria mentioned, we are in a really big collaboration and coordination with many organizations and universities. So it is a really exciting work for all of us, I believe. So here in this slide, I would like to talk about the cultural, actually, mostly cultural components that we need to consider in physiotherapy while working with patients. I have been working with IDA, Independent Doctors Association, for almost 2 years now. And I am from Turkey, and I was working with Syrian refugees mostly, so it was a quite different experience for me. We have like borders between Syria and Turkey, but despite that, I can say clearly it is a really big differences between cultures, and it took a lot of my time to adapt. And as Filip mentioned in his presentation before, maybe some awareness creating, I don't know. So here I would like to talk about some observations from my side, what I saw in the clinic working with patients, and what I kindly would suggest for some health professionals or specifically for physiotherapists to consider while working with refugees. So regarding the culture, it is really effective on one's person because it is affecting the way you think, the way you do your daily activities, and also the treatment you are receiving. So I realized that the refugee population I worked with, they really take care of the gender preferences. So in our centers as IDA, we have 2 physiotherapy centers in Turkey. One of them is like very close to the border, and the other one is in a bit inside Turkey. So in these centers, we are providing services as a gender match physiotherapy. For example, a male patient would be treated by a male physiotherapist, and female patient would be treated by female physiotherapist, because this is how they are feeling more comfortable and more interactive during the sessions. Regarding the lifestyle of the beneficiaries, I think it is important for physiotherapists and also for occupational therapists as well to know the lifestyle of the person you are treating, so that you can consider it while providing home exercises for home. It would affect the way they are doing things at home. For example, if you teach them how to stand up from a chair, like from a chair to stand up, but this person, maybe he doesn't have a sofa at his home, so it is like you should consider all of these lifestyle changes, differences between 2 cultures. Another thing is regarding psychology. As we all can know, every disadvantaged persons in a way or another, they are facing some psychological issues, let me say. So during the sessions, working with patients, I would suggest to take care of the words perhaps we are using with them. If you want to have the physical examination, it is quite important to take their consent and like ask them how they would feel comfortable. Maybe this person was exposed to torture, we don't know. So in this case, maybe we wouldn't ask the direct questions regarding the injuries they have, but we would maybe give them some place so that when they feel this honesty and reliance with us, so that they could tell by themselves. Okay. And another thing is, for example, when you are positioning the patient for treatment, maybe some of them, they have some phobias for lying down, because it reminds them like some bad moments. So it is quite important to observe the patient and please give them a space so that they can express what they want and what they expect in the sessions. Some people, they have like hesitations because they are in a quite different country, and most of them, they don't speak the language. And during the sessions, like it is, you know, it is the basic to understand what you're saying to your patient and what he or she is explaining to you. So in this case, I saw that some patients, they are hesitating to go to treatment because they feel like they cannot get what they expect from these services. So in our centers, the good thing is we have staff, native Arabic speakers, we have English speakers, and we also have Turkish speakers. So in our centers, we don't face these language barriers. But I believe that not only in Turkey, but also in other countries, I think this language is a barrier that we need to consider with the patients. Another thing is with the language barriers, maybe it would be also some psychologically positive effect for the patient if you can know like few words about their language, like native language. So since I started to work with IDA, I learned like how to speak Arabic, not professionally, of course, but at least I can describe some exercises, or I can ask, how are you, etc. Most of the time they are laughing at me. Probably my pronunciation is funny for them, but it's okay. I can see that they are feeling comfortable with me. And another aspect of this, they are feeling psychologically comfortable, because to learn something about their culture, something about their language, I feel like it gives them the sense that I care about your culture as well. So yes, they are in our country. Most of people, they're speaking Turkish here, the host community language, but at the same time to show them like we also care about you and we are living here together. So I think it would give them also some psychologically positive effects, like to learn about their culture, to wonder and or ask questions about their culture. I think it would be a nice discussion with the beneficiary as well, with the patient. Regarding the education for professionals, I really like PrEP regarding these points because it is really a professionally designed course that would teach the physiotherapists mainly, but as Maria mentioned, now we are open also for the occupational therapists, and I hope in the future maybe some other areas of professionals would be included in the project. So in this way, we are like trying to give some evidence-based, let me say, courses for the health professionals, so that when they see a patient from like disadvantaged groups and when they are not aware about what happened with this person, this would prevent the unwillingly happened negativities during the session. For example, let's imagine that there is a physiotherapist and he has no idea what torture this person was exposed, okay? So maybe a position or an exercise he was doing during the session, it will have a bad effect on this person, and physiotherapist is not aware about it, okay? He didn't mean it, but it happened. It caused this negative feeling. So in this case, just to cause awareness and to raise their knowledge about these groups, I think the PrEP course is really helpful for the professionals. It is a guidance, really. And regarding the treatment, I think it is really important to hear from the patient what they expect from us. So that you can like help with arranging your treatment schedule, and like it would increase even the effectiveness of the treatment as well. Okay, so let's say that there is a beneficiary, like she has some problems at home with her husband, let's say. Okay, so in this case, to also listen about these ladies, like some, how can I say, some other topics than physiotherapy, this would also help for the patient, because we as physiotherapists, we are spending at least 2 weeks, 3 weeks, months perhaps with patients. So of course we are talking about their social life, our social lives as well. So in this case, it would affect the effectiveness of the treatment in a positive way, because you are creating a stronger relationship with the patient, and this will, I believe, it will increase the participation also for the beneficiary. What I like about our work in IDA, it is not only physiotherapy, okay? We are also providing psychosocial support. We have psychologists in the centers, like we have case management workers, and they all are supporting beneficiaries, not only in physiotherapy, but also in psychological part. And in Turkey now, we have many organizations, NGOs, and they all are in a great collaboration. So the example I just gave, if a lady has a problem with her husband and she's feeling threatened, okay, if the physiotherapist heard this in our center, he or she will not just forget about it, okay, because we know that there are organizations who are taking care of the violence issues, and they have legal support for the beneficiary. So we will be, like, of course, taking the consent of the beneficiary, and then we will be contacting with this relevant persons just to like support this person if she needs some other services rather than physiotherapy. Okay, some of them, maybe they have some educational problems, and again, in the field we have many organizations dealing with education. So this way it makes physiotherapists, like, it carries physiotherapists beyond the sessions. Okay, so it's not only the 1 hour treatment you are doing in the session, but you are changing some other things in the life of the person. I think it is something really, really nice. Dear Francisca and I, we attended an event. It was in November, I remember. We were talking about, like, how physiotherapy could contribute to the community development. Okay, so this way, because every member in the society, they have a role, and as a physiotherapist, we are supporting them to get back to this role and carry out this role. Okay, and for example, being sensitive for other issues they are facing, it is like carrying our job more than just the 1 hour treatment, but it is something more sustainable for the beneficiary. Yes, thank you very much. I think that's all from my side.
Thank you, Esra. That's brilliant.
Thank you, Will.
And to touch on many of Esra's points, it's how is PrEP developing competencies for physios? And it's not going to give everything, but it's going to give a broad range of many aspects of working with refugees, and as Esra mentioned, things to be aware of that might not be typical physiotherapy related issues.
Can I ask a question?
A question?
I think Will, you can continue, and then we'll do the questions at the end. And Danik, you can sort out the sound issue there on your side, okay? Or you can put your question in the chat. Yeah, Will, back to you.
Thank you. So as Maria's mentioned, PrEP is a creation of many different individuals, from academics to NGOs to a wide variety of allied health professionals, and hopefully with the plan to develop that further in the future. The network and the actual course itself provides a basis for people to interact with both other students on the course, but but also the professionals and academics that are leading the course, and to try and get as much information from them as possible as they go along the 9-stage course. So some of the aspects of the network and future projects, like I've said, it's a collaboration of academics, allied health professionals and humanitarian organizations. And as Esra's mentioned, you know, there's a lot of overlap, but also a lot of collaborations that can really aid in the help of patients and refugees that people can work with. Maybe Maria would like to mention about some of the dissertation opportunities and conferences.
Yes, thank you. So we have quite some bachelor students and some master students also involved in the course, and that is via our organization. So both HGL and HAND have quite a nice number of students, and these are very important because the students are the change makers, really, and those that we then understand also what is needed in the field, and occupational therapy bachelor students are now a very important reason why we can start now to develop this for occupational therapists. So yeah, so this is very happy to have this student involvement.
Brilliant. And we have been in conversation with Esra and a couple of other people about potential student exchange programs in the future, hopefully when we can get back to more normal times. And also, as Maria's mentioned, this course is constantly under review, but mainly will be analysed after March once the first year has been completed, and we will be looking to constantly evolve the programme. And as at the bottom, they're also looking into other health professionals that we could expand the information to as well. So some of the take-home messages, and Maria and Esra, I'm sure you can add on things as well. PrEP is a constantly evolving network, and hopefully it can only get better and better with more people's input and a wider variety of knowledge and experiences. We're looking at all levels, and as Maria's mentioned, the student network is a really big part of this. We want people to go into the profession with a really broad range of knowledge, especially within refugee health and care. And if we can positively impact at a local level, with the aim to collectively impact on a global level, is part of this PrEP project.
Thank you. I'm sorry to butt in. We have to come to a close. Great. That was great timing for this slide. Thank you very much for your presentation. And it's really impressive to have so many partners around the table. I really want to compliment you on that. And I love the way, Esra, that you called the service users beneficiaries, because it works on the assumption that they are benefiting from physiotherapy treatment. And so that's a wonderful vantage point to start out with. So thank you very much. Really interesting presentation. And then we had a question from Danik, who was experiencing some sound issues. If I can read it out loud. The question from Danik is, Esra, I am curious if there is a patient or a person who you will always keep in mind, and what did you learn from him or her, or what did you teach the patient? Thanks for the question, Danik.
Yes, thank you, Danik. Actually, yes. To be honest, there are many patients that I will always keep in mind, because really this experience for me, it was quite different. But I could talk about one lady, I will not mention her name. She had a kind of muscle disease, and the health professionals, of course, they know that this situation is unfortunately progressive. So by time she will lose her ability to do things she used to be able to do in the past, okay? So when she came, she was not really hopeful, because her sister was also carrying the same disease and she was now on wheelchairs, okay? So she came and asked us for a wheelchair directly without even asking for physiotherapy, because we also have some assistive device support in the center if our doctor finds it suitable. So we didn't give her the wheelchair because I told her, you are walking and you can keep this performance by physiotherapy. It is possible. So we had some sessions to convince her for the therapy. In the beginning, she was not attending sessions, but with phone calls, I invited her, please come. And I also take some support from our psychosocial team. And then she started to come to the sessions regularly, and she was happy that she sees some results, because, you know, muscle disease, when you are really taking care of the exercises, it will show the result, of course. So after that, when we started to improve our conversation, I learned that she has problem with her husband, and he was planning to getting married to another lady. Okay, so she is also depressed about it, and it is not an easy situation at all. So we kind of like increased the psychosocial support, and I told her some opportunities, like, okay, you can find a job, we could find something appropriate for you, you could like earn your money and you don't need this person anymore. Okay. And another complaint was from her, she was not able to have a child, and she was also upset of this. Maybe that was the reason her husband wanted to get married to another lady, I don't know. So after that, we finished our physiotherapy sessions, and she was able to climb stairs by herself. She was well improved. And after like 1 year, we are still talking, by the way. She told me that she's pregnant, and she had her baby like 1 month ago, I think. Unfortunately, her situation now is not very good, because with pregnancy, she was now a bit more like, she has less capacity than before, let me say, and she's again hopeless. So I made some again referrals for her. I even searched like, is there any medication from abroad, so that maybe we could request this medication from abroad for her. So with whom I talked, with IOM, you know, some UN agencies, they are providing, and they offered her the third country settlement. We have this option, if someone needs treatment, if he is a refugee, they can move this person to another country for treatment. They offered her this option, but she refused. She doesn't want to go alone. So I am still working with her. Actually, we finished the physiotherapy part. I am just following her up, but I am still working with her, like psychological things. Yeah.
Interesting. We have 3 minutes left. And is there any question, a final question? I feel like it would be wonderful to chat for 2 hours now, to really answer questions, get to know each other better. And but unfortunately, we have 3 minutes left. Would anybody like to ask a final question? You know, my secret hope is that what Filip was saying right at the beginning, that openness is required to become culturally aware and able to work across, I can call them cultural boundaries. And my secret hope is that openness is indeed something that can actually be learned or acquired, and that it's not something that is maybe a mindset or an attribute within people that can't change, because then all the efforts people are spending on the programs they are developing is maybe limited in effect. So for now, I'm going to believe that it's a skill that people can acquire, the openness, and I think that events like today attract people who do have a mindset of openness. I would like to congratulate you all for having been here, and it's so nice to see the faces and to see people who actually concern themselves with this topic. And I wish everybody well in their work, in their research, in their contact with patients. And I would like to thank the speakers very, very much for the time, for the insights, for the wisdom, for answering the questions. Also, thank you to those who took the interest for posing a question. And hopefully we get to speak to each other again. And all the best for each individual endeavor.